Hey guys, welcome back. It's part two of our lettering series, and today we are doing some alphabet drills. If you didn't get a chance to watch the first video with the basic hand lettering strokes, I will go ahead and link it for you so you can catch up on that. You definitely want to get a few of those drills under your belt before you start creating shapes. So we're going to start with the letter A, and let's just have a gentle reminder that we are going to be going as slow as possible. Speed is the enemy of lettering. We're going to do an upstroke, and we're going into our oval shape, and then ending it with an underturn. You can also create an A by doing an upstroke followed by an oval, and then a downstroke and another upstroke, whatever feels more comfortable to you. We'll do this one more time. Upstroke, oval, underturn. And you can see that the transitions in my A are not as smooth and seamless as I would like them to be. It's normal for the first few letters of my practice to be a little bit shaky and a little less smooth between the connections. So, I would be gentle with yourself if you're finding that in the first few letters you might be struggling a bit. It's definitely a sign of more practice being needed and less of a sign of not having a particular skill. This is a skill that we develop. It's not a skill that is natural. So take it easy with yourself and just notice the mistakes only to improve them. All right, so with the B, we're doing an upstroke. We're doing an ascending loop into our reverse oval and reaching from the bottom with a last upstroke to exit. One more time, we're doing an upstroke, ascending loop, reverse oval, and we're going to pick up from the bottom of that reverse oval and end with an upstroke to exit. Letter C is pretty simple. You're just going to do your thin upstroke and you're going to start to shape the letter C the way that you would shape an oval. But instead of closing it, you're just going to come down in the middle and end with another upstroke. When you reach the bottom of your letter C, it might be helpful for you to pause before you create that last upstroke, just so that in your mind you're distinguishing the different pieces of the letter. For me, this helps me be conscious of the purpose of that exit upstroke in that it is a connector between letters, and this will become really important for you to be comfortable with as we start to put words together. Moving along to the letter D, we're going to start with an upstroke, an oval, going into an ascending loop, and exiting with another upstroke. You may notice that at times my pen pulls away from the page when I'm trying to create those upstrokes like I just did right there. This is something that happens often when you're trying to go into that upstroke, especially when you're transitioning from a downstroke. It just means that you need more practice and building that muscle memory and building that skill of being able to transition from a downstroke into an upstroke. For the letter E, we're going to do an upstroke and kind of similar to an oval, except we're going to start somewhat in the inside of the oval and looping out, and then rather than completing the circle for the oval, we're going to leave it open to create the letter E. If you've done your homework and practiced your basic drills, then you should be pretty familiar with the oval shape, which would make creating the E's easier for you in these drills. Likewise, the letter F will be easy for you if you have been doing your basic drills practice. All you need is an upstroke, a descending loop, followed by another upstroke. One more time, upstroke, descending loop, and another upstroke. The next letter is a G, and we're going to do our entry stroke with an upstroke, followed by an oval, and then followed by a descending loop, but in the reverse position. I didn't include a reverse descending loop in our basic drills because it's very much like the G's that we would normally make in regular cursive writing. But if you find this to be tricky, definitely add some reverse descending loops into your practice. So again, we have our upstroke, our oval, our reverse descending loop, and our last upstroke. I'm going to switch pens at this point because the pen that I was using was kind of worn down a little bit and it really wasn't helping me out to create those nice smooth transitions. I moved on to a Tombow Furonosuke. This one is brand new, so the lines are really clean, and you'll notice that the thin lines are even thinner than the ones that I was creating. So that's also something for you to keep in mind when you are brush lettering. What kind of tools are you using, and are they in the best condition for what you're trying to achieve? For our H's, we're going to start with an upstroke, followed by an ascending loop, going into an overturn, followed by another upstroke. You could also create H's by doing an upstroke, an ascending loop, and do a compound curve at this point. I've just been in the habit of doing an overturn and another upstroke, but it works either way. The letter I is a friendly little letter to play with. All you need is an upstroke and an underturn and a little dot. So this one is more about control and seamless transition between the thick and the thin lines. The J is quite similar to the I, so if you succeeded with the I's, you're going to have good luck with the J's. You're going to do your upstroke, your descending loop into another upstroke, and dot your J. The more you practice, the more you'll notice how understanding the basic strokes truly does facilitate the creating of these clean lines. And then it just becomes more about slowing down and being focused on smooth transitions between thin and thick. The next letter is K, one of my least favorite. I think we should just keep track of the ones that I don't love. Let's see, I think this might be the second letter that I don't love. But you just want to do a thick downstroke, a tiny reverse oval, maybe I would call it, a downstroke, and an upstroke. Again, not my favorite letter. For the letter L, you're going to start with an upstroke, going into your ascending loop, and ending with another upstroke. And you can do that in one smooth movement, or you can pause at the bottom before you do that final upstroke. So you can pause right here and then do your upstroke. So upstroke, ascending loop, upstroke. Next, we're going to do the letter M. And we need an upstroke, a downstroke, overturn, another overturn, followed by an upstroke to exit. For this kind of letter, notice where all of the parts of my letter are landing. Everything is within the two red lines, the bottom red line being the baseline and the top red line being the waistline. Letters that don't have ascending or descending parts are a really great opportunity for you to pay close attention to where each of your strokes are landing. I marked my page with red lines to remind myself that this is where most of my letters will sit. So when I'm doing letters without ascenders and descenders, I'm paying attention to stay inside. The letter N is quite similar. We're going to do an upstroke, a downstroke, followed by an overturn and another upstroke. You could also do it as an upstroke, downstroke, and a compound curve, if that feels right to you. The next one is going to be the letter O, and we just need an upstroke followed by an oval and a comma dot. This is a great opportunity for you to practice the shape and the size of your comma dots. This is what you're going to be using to connect letters like O, U, W to the rest of your letters in your words. For the letter P, we're going to need our upstroke into a descending loop, reverse oval, and our exit upstroke. Again, we're doing an upstroke, descending loop, reverse oval, and our exiting upstroke. I'm curious to know which is going to be your favorite letter of our practice today, so be sure to leave it in the comments. P and R's are two of my favorite letters to hand letter. All right, now on to almost like the mirror twin of the P, now that I think of it. Our Q needs an upstroke, a reverse descending loop, and into our exiting upstroke. Again, that's an upstroke, oval, reverse descending loop, and upstroke. And take note of how slow I'm going with these drills, even as we're this many letters into the alphabet. I find, in fact, that I actually get progressively slower as I practice because I've had time to remind myself that that's the purpose of this practice is to slow down and focus. For the R, we're going to do an upstroke, a little side step, goes into a downstroke, and then an exiting upstroke. So up, side step, downstroke, upstroke. As I said, R is one of my favorite letters to letter, but I usually do it with a little bit more flair than this, but that will have to be for another video. An S doesn't really have a stroke that I can describe except for the upstroke and then a little S shape and going into our exiting upstroke. If you've written S's in cursive, then this won't be tricky for you. If it is, then just watch this video a few times and practice that little kind of like a swivel. Going into the letter T is pretty simple. You're just going to do an upstroke and a downstroke that starts at the ascending line and then end it with another upstroke. So upstroke, go all the way to the ascending line with your downstroke and then end it with an exit upstroke. If you've practiced your underturns enough, this is your moment. For the letter U, you just need an upstroke followed by an underturn, a downstroke, and another upstroke. Or you could do an upstroke, underturn, followed by another underturn. I tend to like to do upstroke, underturn, downstroke, upstroke because I like to be conscious of the size of my connecting upstrokes so that the space between my letters is uniform. For our V's, we're going to do an upstroke, downstroke, upstroke again, and a comma dot. Upstroke, downstroke, upstroke, comma dot. As I've said many times at this point, I don't necessarily believe that every letter has to be connected in order for hand lettering to look pleasing to the eye. But I do think it's important to learn the proper steps and the proper anatomy, and then you can figure out which things you want to cut out in your own hand lettering. So it's good to practice these comma dots. Do you need to use them every single time? You might not want to, and that's fine. So for our W, we're doing an upstroke, an underturn, another underturn, and a comma dot. I do think they look cute though. Upstroke, underturn, underturn, and comma dot. I don't know, and something about it just makes it look really polished when the letter comes together. But there's plenty of lettering that looks really stunning and it doesn't have every letter connected, and I think that's fine. This is me overthinking the X, but it really is just an upstroke, sort of like a sideways underturn, and then another upstroke. So upstroke, leaning underturn, and another upstroke. You should be really proud of yourself, guys. We are almost done with the alphabet. For the letter Y, we're going to do an upstroke, an underturn, a descending loop, followed by the exit upstroke. Y is another one of those letters that allows us to spend time focusing on the smooth transitions because it's a letter that we're familiar with in our daily lives. I highly recommend that you spend a good amount of time practicing letters that you're really comfortable with as well. These letters are confidence boosters and they motivate you to keep practicing and improve on the letters that you're struggling with. The letter Z is a little bit tricky to describe in steps. I would just say that you need an upstroke and then you're going to kind of make a letter 3, except the top portion is going to be shorter than the bottom portion. And then when you come down from that ascending loop, then you're going to do your last upstroke. And that, my friend, is our alphabet done. I can't believe that we did this whole thing. Just kidding, of course. Of course I can't believe we did this whole thing. That was literally the entire point of this video. Okay, one thing that I like to do when I practice drills or practice the alphabet is I like to go back and kind of nitpick and just analyze all of the letters that I created. I bring a red pen, a highlighter. In this case, I've got this pencil that Anna sent me, and I go through all of my letters and I just look for mistakes. And remember that I said early on in this video, we are noticing our mistakes just to learn from them, not to judge ourselves harshly or to assume that we can't do this and quit. So once I've noticed all of the areas that could use some improvement, I immediately go ahead and try and draw that letter again with all of those improvements in mind. And you best believe that this time around, I'm being extra intentional, extra careful, and I'm really paying attention to my speed. And as you can see, I did better. So I would definitely recommend that after you do your practice, you turn back, look at the work that you've done, analyze the shapes that you've made, see where you can make some improvements, and also look for your favorites. Like, absolutely seize the opportunity to find the ones that you really nailed and kind of live in that moment of, like, I did this. That will inspire you and motivate you to continue to practice, which is what you want to do. Find reasons to come back. And just remember that your hand lettering doesn't have to be perfect in order to be worthy. My first bullet journal is full of imperfect hand lettering, but I love looking back at those pages because they remind me of a time when I discovered something that I grew to love. And unless somebody's paying you, I think that you should just create for simply for the enjoyment of creating something. So practice just because it's fun for you. Speaking of enjoyment, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please don't forget to give it a like. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I hope that you will consider doing so. Follow me on Instagram. I will see you next time, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Bye.